Jeff, how are you?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you. How are you doing today?
I'm doing awesome. I'm so happy to have your mogul self here. I'm so excited. I've been looking forward to this interview for weeks now.
Great. As have I. I'm excited to chat.
Love it.
So it's going to be a good one.
You have built something that is so important to artists in the music industry, and it's the area. Well, I'm just going to get right into it if you don't mind. It's the
Yeah.
area where most of my clients have struggled because we drop music very quickly here at Power Move. So we're dropping every other week. And for artists to like upload songs everywhere, it just drives them crazy. They don't know if they're in the black box. They don't know if they did it properly. And you've built something that can really help. Would you talk about it?
I would love to talk about it. I can talk about it forever. So feel free and just cut me off. But no, thank you. I really appreciate you saying that. Yeah,
Incredible.
the story behind Mogul and the problem we're solving and the product that we're building or have built is, myself and the original team, we were at SoundCloud for a number of years. We
Mhm.
had built a digital distributor called Repost Network, which we sold into SoundCloud, and that became SoundCloud for Artists. And so, we're a team that has a ton of experience around, royalties, registrations, large data sets. And when we all left SoundCloud, we were searching for like the next big problem to solve in the music industry. And when we started catching up with artists, managers, lawyers, business managers, songwriters, just people in the space, there was this really common through line, which was it just sort of feels like there's too much to manage. And what I mean by that is you have an ASCAP account or a BMI account for public performance. You have a sound exchange, and you probably work with a few different labels or digital distributors. What we found was most artists have 7 to 10 different logins to 7 to 10 different things that pay them in different payment schedules, have different forms of data entry to get your music registered or your content out there, and also their own forms of conflict and dispute processes, right? So, and when we kind of dug into that, people had, I would say, almost like a lack of confidence. When you ask most musicians or people in the music industry, do you feel like you're getting paid 100% of what's owed to you? Almost always the answer is, you want to say it,
No.
Wendy? Exactly. Exactly.
No. Yeah.
Right. So, and
And the worst part
so,
is they don't know because you have to go into each account and check. And then if it's not working properly, they don't tell you what's wrong. You have to then go investigate. And it's really kind of a nightmare, to be honest.
right, 1,000%. And the music industry is incredibly fragmented from a rights standpoint, from the sheer number of companies that help artists. And it's my opinion that's going to keep being fragmented and continue being more difficult. And as more musicians, stay independent or go off majors and become independent, you're going to just find yourself working with more and more and more companies. And so that was essentially the problem we set out to solve. And the way that we do it, we have a pretty special product that I haven't really seen many companies do anything quite like this. The closest sort of product description I can do is, if you're familiar with Rocket Money or Mint.com, you
Mhm.
you create a Mogul account and you actually link all the royalty dashboards that pay you. So you connect your Universal Music portal or your DistroKid portal, right? Or your Sony Music Publishing portal or your Songtrust portal, right? You connect all these things up. We log in as you, grab all of your data, your royalty statements, your catalog details, in some cases your contract details, and we just put it into one place, right? So the first step is just, let's just centralize it so people just know what is going on across sound recording and publishing rights, which most artists actually, or people who see this, freak out because they've just never seen those two rights in the same place. But if you're a musician, you don't care, right? It's like
Right.
you're just like, what pays you? So like, why does it have to be different anyway? So we bring it all into one place, and then so we have that centralized data, we effectively do like an automated desk audit. And what that looks, we help find you money in a couple different ways. Our promise to musicians is we'll try and find every missing royalty that's out there for you in under 5 minutes. That's a goal that is we're constantly working towards. But the main way in which we usually help artists find money is making sure everything's registered that should be. So of the 11,000 or so at the time of this recording musicians who use Mogul, I have not had one who has had 100% registration completeness across their catalog. And what that
Wow.
means, yeah. And so what that means is, like, if you distribute a song to Spotify through DistroKid, is it registered correctly in your BMI account or your ASCAP account, right? And usually the answer is not. So we basically make sure everything is registered correctly. And then because we're connected into your BMI, into your ASCAP, into your DistroKid account, we simply say, do you want us to register it for you? And you say, hopefully, sure. And we collect a little bit of information. Great. Like, who did anyone else write on this? What are the splits? It's, I like to think a little bit more user friendly and intuitive than, some of the sites that are out there. And then we access your account as a designated user and we do the registrations for you. And so I think, when I think of at least where we are today and the longer term vision of the company, we want to almost be like DistroKid, but for all the other royalties and registrations that
For the
artists and
rights.
managers hate
Yes, the
keeping
ownership.
track of.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's like we want to be that source of truth and that place that artists can go to have the confidence and peace of mind, and that, it's getting done correctly, or if it's not done correctly, they have actionable steps to fix the issues.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. So am I able to go into Mogul and just upload all the information for one song and then you guys will take it everywhere so that I don't have to retype it 50 times?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So the way the process works is when you sign up, you can connect your Spotify account. So that's one way we actually get your catalog data. We, if
So I don't
you're,
even have to type it in because you're connected to my Spotify.
yeah, you connect your Spotify, and then you connect your
Game
DistroKid, or
changer.
yeah, whatever accounts you have that pay you, and we get your catalog details, your metadata that way, so that when it's time to actually do the registrations, you're actually inputting like as little as possible because we already have the information. So yeah, like in a lot of ways, the data is already out there, but when you go to register it, you have to retype things in. You need to look up ISRC codes, right? It's the
It's
whole
crazy.
data
It's like, and
entry.
you're doing it like 6 or 7 times. It's like instead of being an artist, you're doing data entry, and
Yeah,
it's nobody wants to do it. I don't want to do it, so I know artists don't want to do it.
yeah. So we're basically trying to be the royalty administrator for like the music industry, I guess.
I love that. And you bypassed API because you're logging in the way you do at Mint or Robinhood, which is extremely secure, very safe. I have
Yeah,
accounts in both of those, and I trust them immeasurably.
correct. Yeah, the way we actually facilitate the registrations is usually through like a designated user status. So if you've ever, or a guest user, so if you've ever had an account with a service and you say, oh, I want to add my manager, I want to add someone like that, we basically add ourselves our own email into that, and we give ourselves copyright only permissions, so we can't change your bank details or your personal info or anything like that. All we can do is just access. We can just submit and
Register for, yeah.
registrations and receive data. And yes, that's the way we've chosen to set it up, so that yeah, it's safe and secure, and we're only doing the thing that you've hopefully come to tell us to do.
I love that. I love that. So I know you mentioned that you built a product before, which then went to SoundCloud. Was that your entry into the music business, or did you start as a music business person?
I always say I'm a tech person in music and not a music person in music. My story is really weird. I actually started out as a reality TV editor, believe it or not. And
Wow.
then
I
yeah,
did
and
not
then
see that coming.
yeah, no, I used to yeah, I used to kind of be creative in that sense, but not necessarily
Yeah.
in music. And then my love of video editing actually got me into my first startup, which was this was over like 15 years ago, a long time ago, but it was a crowdsourced concert video app. So it was sort of around the time when
Mm.
cell phone cameras were getting good enough and people could film, like people were like recording the concert with their phones. I
Yes.
built a website where you could upload those angles, and then we would basically analyze the audio waveform and auto edit, synchronize, and then auto edit
Wow.
the
Make
fan
movies.
angles into a new video. Yeah. And so that was kind of like, I was an editor. I love music. I did the startup thing. I fell in love with doing music tech, and yeah, Mogul is now my third music tech startup, which is
Wow.
wild to think. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh my God. You're a serial tech startup guy. I love that.
I guess so. Yep.
I love that. I love that. Mogul is so necessary. Like it's just it's a problem that I had been looking to solve for a long time in the music business and just couldn't. and my clients just won't upload their songs. Like they just aren't going to do it.
Right.
And they're missing money. And what happens is as they grow and they become profitable or get a deal, we then have to go back in and play catch up. And there
Right.
is nothing worse than adding hundreds of songs into somebody's catalog. And then I look at guys like LaRussell, who I adore, and LaRussell's been putting out music prolifically, but he's always using different distributors. So
Right.
nothing is in one place. He's got music like everywhere because he's testing kind of everybody, which is wonderful in some respects, but it becomes a nightmare in terms of trying to track everything and make sure he's getting paid properly. If I remember correctly, Mogul would help somebody like him because of the dashboard. It does more than just upload information, doesn't it? Aren't I able to
Yeah,
go and see what my songs are doing?
absolutely. Yeah. So we provide analytics, and we actually do some really cool things with regards to comparing digital distributors and labels as well. So for someone like LaRussell, who's worked with several distributors and labels, which is a great strategy, right? Maybe you can go that route. You can, get a couple different advances, move your catalog around, right? Like that can be a really great and smart strategy. I don't know if that's the case or not. But what you can use Mogul for, right, is you log in and you connect all those distributors, you connect all those labels, right? We have accounts at Mogul. I think our largest account has over 50 different companies connected to it. And
Wow.
we track all the data in one place. So if you want to see, who's paid you more, right? Which label or distributor has paid you more over the last year or 5 years or all time, very easy to do. And then the one thing that we do, which I got in a little bit of trouble for, but I kind of, as of right now, I kind of don't care, is we look at all of your data and we actually tell you who pays you more per play on Spotify. So we will, and we started with just US Spotify plays just to kind of get the product out and see if this is something that people wanted or cared about. It seems like it is, and so we're probably going to take it a layer deeper. Sort of TBD on when that happens. But yeah, you'd be able to see, okay, Universal Music is paying me 0.004 per play across this album, but Warner Music, the release I have with Warner, is paying me like 10% less on average. Like, why is that the case? And there could be a lot of reasons, right? Maybe it's your deal with the company. Maybe
Or
it's
their
like
deal.
or their deal with Spotify, 1,000%. And I mean, that's kind of the interesting thing about Mogul, right? Is I feel like I have kind of a very interesting blog post I could write, in that we've had thousands of people connect all of these different services, and so from an aggregate macro view, we can see actually which labels and distributors pay a little bit better as opposed to which ones don't. And that kind of shocks some people. Like a lot of people think like, oh well, there really is there much of a difference between CD Baby and
Yes.
TuneCore? But like, yeah, there actually could,
Yes,
because
there is.
they're all doing their own unique licensing deals and things like that. So we provide that data back to artists as it relates specifically to their catalog currently. And so, yeah, but to answer your question, we do a ton of things around analytics and data. Um, you know, so but you could compare releases to one another, and things like that within the product. And we really believe that anytime you look at the business or you give people the tools to look at the business, they're probably going to make more money because we'll be able to make more informed decisions. And yeah,
Sure.
exactly. So,
And not only better decisions, but you're actually tracking the right stuff. Not every dashboard. I find with distributors, and I say this lovingly because I really do love distributors. I love the indie world. And I noticed that there's this measuring contest between a lot of distributors where they're like, oh, they're giving you 7 things to measure, well, we'll give you 9. And it's like, okay, you're giving me 9, but 2 of them don't matter, 4 of them
right.
don't matter. And I find that what you guys are offering is all stuff that I actually use when
Thank you.
planning out a tour for an artist, or looking at where to beef up a budget, or which markets matter more to me than others,
Yeah.
which platforms matter more to me than others.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's the startup that I sold to SoundCloud was a digital distributor, right? And so I know a lot about that measuring competition, right?
Yes.
They're all selling access to Spotify, right? It's all sort of the same thing. And
Yes.
yeah, you go pretty deep on competing around price. Uh, and there's a lot of companies that do compete in the distribution space around product, but there's also a lot of companies that don't.
It's
A
true
lot of them
too.
have really terrible products, but
Yes,
yeah, I do know a lot about that, and I think my time building Repost Network and turning that into SoundCloud for artists, as well as just being at SoundCloud in general, which is such a, that's a tech company in music as well, with a huge emphasis on data, right? I think one of the great things about SoundCloud is they provide city level data, and they were one of the first
do
DSPs
it.
to do that, which others are catching up, which is
So
great.
helpful.
But
Yeah,
I was always proud that SoundCloud led on that front. Yeah, I think we've been doing the music data thing for over 10 years. Myself and the team that's starting Mogul. So it's all about putting the right thing in front of the right person at the right time.
exactly.
And the challenging part to that and the art to that too is sometimes artists don't know what they need too,
Right.
right? And so also that can be sort of like the trickier uh, thing to do, right? Like an artist might not know that distributor A is paying them 30% less than distributor B. They may not know to look for those things, but
Right.
we hope to build those types of insights and like put that in front of people in a way that matters, right?
And you illustrate it beautifully. I remember when you and I first spoke, and I'm not going to put you on the spot, so please don't panic when you hear where I'm going with this, because you might. When you and I first spoke, like I'm forever explaining to artists that yes, DistroKid and TuneCore are great because they pay 100%, but they're not incentivized to negotiate the best deals with Spotify and the other DSPs because they just pass the money through. Whereas a distributor, you might have an 80-20 split with somebody, but that 80% might actually be more money than 100% of what DistroKid or TuneCore is paying through. And artists don't really think about that, you know? And when you and I were first speaking, I remember like all of a sudden I had this light bulb. You probably saw it go off over my head. And I'm like, oh my God, Jeff, whether 100% of DistroKid is more than 80% of United Masters or whoever. And I don't mean to call anybody out. And you just smiled and you're like, yeah, I do know. And somebody that has access to Mogul is going to be able to get that information as well. And that's, well, provided they have accounts at both of those places. And that's really important because we get excited about the thought of 100% pass through, but what if 100% pass through really means 65% of income? We just don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah, exactly. Like I think and also just like for anyone listening, right? Like all the companies we're talking about are completely for illustrative purposes, right? We're not, no one's saying you're not going to get, hopefully out of this conversation, any knowledge of like, this company has a better deal with Spotify
No,
than that, right? Like
no. I'm truly not trying to put you on the spot.
right. But yeah, I mean, the one thing we do find with a lot of people is, there will be like a label that uses a distributor who's on a rev share, and it'll be like a dollar comes in, the distributor takes 15 cents on the dollar, so that creates 85 cents. The 85 cents goes to the label, and then the label splits, the 85 cents, maybe 50-50 or 80-20, or right. And so what's happening is there's like people kind of up the food chain who are taking cuts out of
I
the
call
the
them
fee.
middlemen.
The
Yeah,
middleman, yeah, thank
yeah.
you. That the artist has no clue. They think they're getting a 50-50 split, but in reality, they're getting like they're really only getting like 30% of like what was generated, right? And so we catch is maybe the wrong word, but we provide the data that like allows people to see
What
those
that
types of
means.
things when that's happening. Yeah.
Yeah.
And my hope is that, with that knowledge, it will inform musicians to make smarter business decisions, and that pressure will hopefully incentivize more distributors and labels to really care about this stuff, and not
Yeah.
not hide it as much.
Be a little more transparent.
Yeah, I think so. And look, like between one company and another, like many of the companies in the space, you know, the big distributors, the big labels, right? Like, yeah, it's a nominal difference. But there are some where
Yeah.
it's not nominal, but
I remember
Yeah.
when I started in the music industry, there was a business manager named Bert Padell who was just infamous. And I remember him telling me, Wendy, this is a pennies game. It's not a dollars game. And
Hmm.
people get rich because they get a lot of pennies. And it takes a really long time for the pennies to start coming. But once they start coming in and you have a hit record, then they come really, really, really fast.
Yeah.
And he's like, the trick is to make sure you get as many of the pennies that you're due. You're not going to get them all because this industry is not built for you to get them all. And now we're dealing with fractions of pennies. And it's more fractions of pennies, but it's still fractions of pennies. And I'm reminded of that conversation because yes, you might be comparing two things and somebody might be paying 0.0001 cent more than somebody else. But when you're talking about billions of streams, that's a nice check.
1,000%. And I mean, kind of going back to Mogul and our core offering, right? A big part of what we're trying to do is make it so artists are set up correctly so that when they do see success, they're able to capture as much of the value as humanly possible, right? Because to the point you kind of said earlier, which is, oh, there's a hit record or an advance on the table, and then there's this scramble, right, to get everything registered and
It's a
sort of
nightmare.
polish the car, right? So yes, that's like super stressful. The other thing people don't realize is how the black box works. So if in many cases, if the song has been out for more than 3 or so years, those royalties older than that are gone, right? It's
Yes.
either been eaten
Not
up by
retroactive.
it's either been eaten, yeah, it's either been eaten up by the company or a CMO or entity that's responsible for collecting it. It's just gone into their operating budget, or even worse, it's been black boxed out to the rest of the industry, which is guess who? Yeah, not black boxed. It's been paid out pro rata to the rest of the industry, and guess who that is? Guess who has the most market share? It's the major labels and the major publishers, right?
Yeah.
So, when you're an independent artist, you kind of have to ask yourself this, which is, yeah, maybe it's pennies, right? But like, if I bet on myself and I'm successful, uh, do you want your money, those pennies, which equal dollars, which, grows and grows and grows? Do you want that given away to the major
Mm.
labels or major publishers and these already giant companies who, for not really doing any of the work? And so I think, to me, I would hope that would be a strong incentive to just take a little bit of time, do it right, and hopefully use the service like Mogul that makes it a little easier too. So
Exactly. With Mogul, and if you can't talk about this, please don't. But um, where are you guys growing to? Like, what are you looking to? You said you love solving problems in the industry, so I'm hoping that there's a bunch that you can tackle. But is there anything you can talk about, like the direction that you're going? This is me being nosy. This isn't
yeah,
necessarily.
no, it's great. That's a great question. We just launched this tool that registers your music for you,
Mm,
and the response has been really great. We're seeing really strong uptick in the amount of users, repeat users. It seems like there's actually some solid word of mouth happening. People just like making social posts and stuff like that. And so, in my experience, when something like that happens and you feel as though you've kind of found a level of product market fit, it usually makes sense to double down. And so, some of the obvious things is we're very direct to artists focused, right? So I would say the majority of people who come in our front door are artists who are doing it themselves, which is great. That's obviously very near and dear to my heart. But we also get reach outs from record labels and from publishers and from management companies and organizations, and who have the same problem or a version of the same problem, but slightly nuanced, right? What a publisher needs from a registration standpoint as an organization is like a little different than maybe what a management company needs. So for us, I could certainly see us developing the platform and product to basically work with more prongs of the music industry. And also, it's so blurry, right? Like there's so many artists that also have labels, and so I want to kind of grow in that direction. Another thing that's also been very interesting for us, and this is one of those funny things in tech where it's like sometimes the thing you put like the least amount of work into and just kind of throw out there, it ends up being the thing everyone likes. But one thing that everyone really likes is our valuation product. And at the time of right now, I actually don't know what the strategy is for this, but it's something that's always in the back of my mind. And so what our valuation product is you connect up all your royalty dashboards. We get all your your finance and royalty data, and we tell you how much you could sell it for. And that's really it. We just kind of look at how old the catalog is. We look at how consistent the royalty stream, which creates something called dollar age. And then that allows for a publishing and a sound recording multiple, right? And we kind of slap those two together and we say, hey, we think you could sell for $100,000 is sort of our rough estimate. And we get musicians coming back every month saying, hey, why'd my valuation go down this month? Or how do I get this up? Or I want to solve my issues because
Right.
I want to get this valuation. And
It's the new measuring stick.
a little bit, yeah. And it doesn't take up that much real estate in our product. It's like just a little thing. But I think
I love
anytime
that.
when all the eyes are going to a thing, you usually say, okay, there's something here. Maybe we should take it
Yeah.
a little deeper. So I don't know if anyone's listening to this and has any ideas of how we could advance our valuation tool or offering.
Hit you up.
Certainly open to it.
I love that.
Um,
I love that. It's so topical right now because much of the music business press is focused on catalog selling for 12 to 20 times value, right? We're reading, Warner Brothers just teamed with this venture capital firm and they were infused, billions of dollars to buy catalog. And as a newer artist, we don't always know what that means. We don't really understand that. We hear the Queen catalog is, almost $1 billion. We hear what
right.
Bruce Springsteen, sold his catalog for. So we're hearing the numbers, but it's very difficult to apply that to ourselves. So what you've done is you've offered a tool where somebody can go in and say, okay, I might not be Bruce Springsteen, I might not be Beyonce, but my catalog has value and oh geez, it's worth X amount of dollars. Let me now put some effort into building my catalog. Let me put some effort into growing my catalog so that I see my value increase. It sort of evens the playing field for somebody who's not a superstar to start taking it seriously. And I love that.
Yeah. And I think also just when you sort of see a bigger number that's like sort of 10x what you're used to seeing, it's maybe a little motivating too.
Incentivizing. Yes.
That's
Yes.
maybe a better word. And yeah, it's kind of interesting. It's like we're doing all the work to help you like centralize the royalties in the business. We're valuing your business, and then we're also pointing you in the right direction of how to make more money and to grow that valuation, right? And so we do actually get a decent amount of like producers, songwriters who kind of come through and they're like, oh, like if I just used Mogul and pay for $150 a year subscription, it's like $12 a month, right? Like if I can grow my catalog by 20%, it's sort of like polishing the car before you sell it.
Yes.
And it's already aggregated all the statements and all the things in the right place. So we actually do see that when people are trying to sell, they almost use us as like a pseudo like data room, if that makes sense. And if you're
It
not familiar
does.
with if anyone listening isn't familiar with what a data room is, it's sort of it can be as simple as like a Google Drive or a Dropbox with, all of your contracts and all of your historic royalty statements and some analysis and stuff like that. So since we're kind of doing the organization, yeah, we see some like funds like getting added into people's Mogul accounts sometimes.
I love that.
um,
It's also a great way to see what the valuation is if you're utilizing one of the advanced services, because there are a lot of advanced services out here and some are legitimate and some are not.
right.
And it's nice to know going in, okay, this is what I think my valuation is. And now when I go to get an advance and I learn, okay, they're doing a 6-month, here's what their mathematical formula is. I've got a place to go and see exactly what my math is to be able to apply their formula myself and see if they're offering me is really what my worth is.
Yeah, yeah, 1,000%. And I would say, our catalog valuation isn't, it's not, it's like a good rough number, right?
Right,
It's like,
right,
and
right.
yeah, I think to your point, it's like you can look at that, and if it's like well below it, you might be kind of
Your
getting
spidey
screwed or
senses,
something.
yeah, it might want to tingle a
But if
little and
if
find
it's
out why.
near, yeah, you still do like do your own research for sure. But it's I think kind of a handy tool to kind of get like a you know lick your finger, put it up in the air, and be like, oh, which way is the wind blowing on
Boy.
this? Yeah.
Right.
So
I love that. I have one more question for you that has nothing to do with Mogul. When
oh,
I was coming up, I came up during hustle culture,
yeah.
and I'm one of those weirdos that's just super driven and a complete workaholic, and nobody ever talked to me about like how to balance my life. In fact, I'm embarrassed to admit to you, I've just learned in the past 2 years how to bring balance into my life. So do you mind if I ask you how you find balance in your life, or do you? Because I don't want to assume that
Yeah.
you do, but you seem very well adjusted, so I'm assuming that you
Oh,
have
that's
balance.
that's that's amazing. Maybe that's a coping mechanism. I don't know. No, that is such a good question, and such a
And
I, I
so
yeah
important.
I love that question, and it is so important. It's I've been better at it and worse at it in my life. I kind of
Mm,
feel like in my 20s I was really, really bad, like working all
same.
day, every day,
7
weekends,
days
on
a
Chris
week.
I was
Yeah,
doing I did
same.
customer support on Christmas every year for like 8 years, right? Like my
Wow.
my other startup. So you kind of never take a day off. And yeah, there was that whole like Gary V like grind, 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 wake up and grind like thing. And I totally subscribe to that. And
Yes.
what ends up happening is the personal relationships you have suffer, and whether it's
And you burn
friends,
out.
family, and you burn out. And especially if you're trying to build an artist business or a startup, it's so much of your success is dependent on your mental health.
Ooh,
I really can't emphasize that enough.
say it
Like
again. Yes.
so much of your success is dependent on your mental health. Um, so I think it's about knowing what type of person you are, what type of rest do you need, right? Like rest doesn't always mean getting 8 hours of sleep, right? Are you an extrovert? Are you an introvert? Do you need to be around people? Do you not, right? Like, how do you recharge? What are you doing to keep your body healthy? Uh, Things like that, and just creating enough space for it. Because, yeah, like if you're working all the time, if there, I heard this metaphor recently, which I liked, which is you're going to be like a dim light, right? And you're just the quality of the light is going to just be dim all the time, and it's actually not going to be as effective as if you take the time, and when you turn on, you're a bright shining light that's powerful, right? And so that was like a huge lesson I had to learn, which was like, yes, you need to exercise every day. Like I am an extrovert. Like I need to be around people, right? So like me shutting myself in a dark room and working for 3 days straight and not getting outside
It's
is
probably
not
not a
good
good
for me,
idea.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you have to make time
It
for
dims your
it,
light.
and yeah, and be disciplined. And so yeah,
Mm,
and try and be a bright light, not a dim light.
I love
So
that. I love that. I'm tweaking my morning routine right now, and I've been reading a book called The Miracle Morning, and he was talking about something in the book that actually has nothing to do with morning routine. He was talking about, when you're fueling yourself, when you're eating, are you making choices based on emotions, like what you like to eat? Or are you stopping to think, okay, I have to work until 10 o'clock tonight. Let me eat something that's going to give me energy. Let me eat something high in protein and get some fats for my brain so that my brain doesn't get foggy. And I'm actually listening to the book. I had to stop. I pulled over because that was so profound to me. It's like,
yeah.
how did I get to be this age and I'm just hearing this now? And I'm like, this is friggin' brilliant. And it was yesterday when I heard it, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going till 10:30. This is the last night. I'm going till 10:30. And I really wanted some fried chicken. That's what I was in the mood for. I live in the
Mm,
South, and I'm like, no, let me go and eat something that like has some grains and some protein and a little bit of fat in it so that I can. And I made it all through the night without getting depleted for like the
mm.
first time in my life. And I'm like, how am I just finding this out? Because
Well,
I'm somebody that chooses food based on, oh, I feel like salmon tonight, or I feel like chicken tonight, or it's not
yeah.
about feel.
1,000%. There's a book called and better that you figure that out later rather than never, right?
Right.
But there's a book I think called Happiness, which is about balancing short-term versus long-term happiness, right?
Mm,
It's like eating the fried chicken is going to make you happy in the short term, but like what's
for
the
10
long-term
minutes.
effect versus
Yeah.
like maybe not eating the fried chicken, but like achieving some goal for yourself in the long term and being happy once you maybe
achieve
happier
that
once you
goal.
reach that goal, right? And
Right.
there's some really good like practical stuff around like journaling and sort of frameworks about how to like balance those two things.
I love that.
But yeah,
I love that.
I think
That's
the
really
book's called Happiness. Yeah.
happiness. Thank you. I'll find it and link it below. Is there anything that I didn't ask you that I should have?
Ooh, it's a good open-ended one. Um, Trying to think. No, I think we got into what Mogul is. I think it was, yeah, great chatting about, problems within the music industry and some of the
Yeah.
fun ways in which we're solving it. And
And I love that we touched on the
um,
black box because a lot of people don't. They just, they just kind of skate over it, and it's a lot of fucking money in the black box. It's
yeah,
not, it's not
it,
$3.
it's like billions of dollars. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, billions of dollars of money that isn't going to the artist it's intended to.
Correct.
Yeah.
And it could be
And
something as simple as a misspelling of a name, or you think that you've registered a song in your writer's account and your publisher's account at BMI, and it's not. You missed one of them, and you just don't know because you're not checking, and Mogul is
Mhm.
checking for you.
Yeah. And I mean, that's sort of the weird tin hat thing, which is are these processes difficult for a reason? Because ultimately the
They are.
companies, responsible or who eat the black box are the ones who
Correct.
are responsible for paying it out.
Yes.
Um, but
Yes.
yeah, I think in my opinion, the problem with the black box is it boils down to lack of education. Um, I think that's a huge component of it. I think it's education. I think it's ease of use. I think it's very difficult to manage this process, which is what we're trying to
It is.
solve.
You're
And
solving.
yeah, and I think it's also that mindset where, oh, well, I don't really have that much money out there for me. It's not worth it for me to do the work, right? And that attitude where you're just not betting on yourself, I personally don't understand. But
Me
yeah,
neither.
those pennies, as you said, it's a business of pennies. They add up,
They
and they
do.
end up eventually going into someone else's pocket. So I don't know. I'm of the mindset I wouldn't want any of my money going into someone else's pocket who didn't earn it.
Agreed.
So
I've also learned over the years that how you show up for one thing is how you show up for everything. So if you're half-assing it on one side, you're probably half-assing it in everything in your life. So if we as people can just tighten up a little bit, especially when there's some easy processes in place like this,
mhm,
it's kind of a no-brainer to me.
yeah, yeah, completely agree. And I love that quote. I've heard that quote before.
Mhm.
I think about it whenever it's like time to do the dishes or something. I'm like, no, you got to do it.
Yes.
How
I
do you,
think
how you
about it
do one thing is how
now.
you do everything. Don't not handle the things you have to do.
Yep. I
So
think about it. I work out twice a week, and I hate working out. And I think about it every time I work out because my trainer will say, okay, do 8 reps and I'll do 10. And at one
mm,
point, we were like a year in, and she looked at me and she said, I just want to point out that you're always doing this. And I'm like, yeah, because how I show up here is how I show up for everything. She's like, I understand why you're successful.
yeah,
She's you're
you're
always
right.
like doing one more, always one more. I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
always
Do you run through the finish line or not? Right?
correct.
Do you run through or do you stop at the finish line? Like that kind of
Correct.
mindset. So cool.
Jeff, thank you so much. This was amazing.
Yeah. I really appreciate you having me. It was super fun. I always love chatting with you,
Thank
and
you. I do as well.
thank you for the opportunity.
No, thank you. This is you've built something that's so frigging important. And my followers know like I'm not a salesperson. Like I'm pretty hard on people that are, trying to extract money from the music industry. And as soon as I found out about you, I'm like, I'm signing up.
Thank you.